Hey, welcome back to Grizzly Comments. It is Wednesday, September 21st, 2022, and I've got two subjects. There we go, yawning. Woo! Sorry. I got two subjects that I'm talking about, but they are linked together. The first one is Sheriff Salazar here in San Antonio of Bexar County. He's opening an investigation on Florida Governor DeSantis, which I think is pretty cool. DeSantis, as we all know, hired a plane company called Vitrol Systems, Inc. to transport migrants from San Antonio, Florida to Martha's Vineyard. He might actually be facing human trafficking charges for doing that. You all know the stipulations. They were lured. They had brochures. They were lured with candy and, stuff like food. Stuff that they could really use. Costing at $12,000 plus per flight. Per human, I guess. So obviously there's some lawsuit abuse going on, abuse of our tax-paying dollars going on. Probably along with, more than likely with Florida state taxes, because he's using a plane service out of Florida, but because they're also picking up people out of Texas. It's more than likely it's also being done at the expense of Texas tax-paying dollars as well. I'm not really sure. Nobody is really sure yet. Only law enforcement that's actually investigating will be able to tell. Wish them luck, because if they find out all this good stuff, there's a good enough case to bring up. Now, a lot of complaints have been coming with Salazar. The main complaint is that he has no jurisdiction over anything that goes on with Governor DeSantis, Florida, and everything concerning the flights and everything. Also a lot of people are claiming that it's a political stunt accusation, despite the fact that Sheriff Salazar isn't really running for re-election until 2024. That's when his term ends. This being 2020, that's another 2 years. It's a long ways from now. But as far as the jurisdiction goes, I gotta be honest, that's not much of an opposition statement that can put him down. Technically, Sheriff Salazar has been here since I think 2014, and he's been bombarded with a whole mess load of cases. Trafficked humans, drug busts, dealing with rescuing migrants and rescuing people and finding kids, finding kidnapped people, lost elderly. Sheriff Salazar has been in charge of quite a bit of things since he's been in charge. So to see him make this move, because regardless of whatever statue or political statuesque title that you own, that's him. That's our guy. That's what makes Sheriff Salazar Sheriff Salazar. He doesn't put up. He didn't put up with any of the crap that Governor Greg Abbott has done. He hasn't put up with any crap with anything that Biden or the previous one, Trump, has done. Not even Obama. Obama has done the arresting families and stuff like that and setting some right back. But even Salazar himself would not put up with any of that garbage if they had papers, or if they were actually seeking asylum and filling out the form. They're in the middle of filling out the forms and stuff. As far as Salazar was concerned, they were here legally once they do that. Once they claim asylum seeking. And that's Sheriff Salazar's thing. And he also doesn't take any crap from people that are doing stuff, abusing the law and everything. There's a former deputy that's been fired and stuff that is going through trial right now, has been found guilty, and all under Salazar's watch, because she was corrupt. That's what we got. So this thing with DeSantis, he's actually done goofed up, with this whole handling and securing the border by way of using traffic and human trafficker tactics. Again, the luring with the people to a better life and all this stuff, and then taking them, having them a consent to an agreement, and then taking them to do whatever they want, whatever he wants to them. And what he's done to them is actually a complete waste of time. It's actually nothing compared to what he's actually said that he has done for them. So he done goofed up. Even Greg Abbott knows better than this. Greg Abbott's bussing people, yeah, but a lot of them were already vetted. And a lot of them more than likely were already processed. And again, like I said with the aiding and abetting post just a couple of days ago or yesterday, I think, just as I've stated, so far, nobody's been contaminated yet. Nobody's been contagiously infected with COVID yet. Now, during the time that Biden was handling the facilities down here, putting Alejandro Mayorkas in charge, and Kamala Harris, paying a visit once every blue moon because she trusts Mayorkas, during the time that the government, our U.S. government, was in charge, well, they were being quarantined. Every migrant that was infected with COVID was being quarantined. They were being handled accordingly. So far, no cases of COVID in any of these sanctuary cities. So we can only presume that the migrants here in Texas that have been either bussed out or flown out have already been checked. So all that's left is the human trafficking accusation or investigation, and rightly so. It should be done. It should be done. If he's luring people with candy, so to say, figurative candy, then yeah, and doing these exact methods of a actual human trafficker, then he is performing human trafficking, and he should be punished for it. An investigation should be launched. It should have been under the microscope ages ago, as far as I'm concerned. Same thing with this state's Governor Greg Abbott. An investigation like this should have been checked a long time ago. Okay, but sorry, a rock hit my pebble, a pebble hit my window, but I'm nowhere near a vehicle, so I'm quite curious as to how that happened. Except that it might have fallen off. Now that I'm thinking about it, it might have fallen off the upper levels. So anyway, everything that he's going through right now, both Salazar and Governor DeSantis, is justifiable. DeSantis should be investigated fully, and if he falls into the lines of human trafficking, he needs to be arrested for human trafficking. Even if it's just for a couple of days, first offense or whatever the hell. First offense felony, misdemeanor felony, I don't know what the politically correct term is, but nevertheless, he needs to be put to a stop. Everybody of Veritol Systems Inc. needs to be put to a stop. Every pilot that participated in this needs to be put to a stop. Again, even if they get bailed out the next day, it doesn't matter. The simple fact of the matter is they committed a crime, they get arrested, they do their time. Now, granted, certain loopholes will allow them to avoid that, but again, that's irrelevant. They need to be arrested. They need to be put to a stop. They need to stop with this human trafficking crap, and they need to be arrested. Why? Because that's what law enforcement is here for. Law enforcement, local, statewide, federal, whatever. I said it before, back on the aiding and abetting post. I'm going to say it again. Biden should authorize any and every government departmental agency to fully investigate permission to these crimes. With full investigative permissions to these crimes. I think I said it better yesterday. Sorry about that. Biden should authorize governmental department agencies full investigative authority to check out these infections and crimes. Okay? They find out which bus or plane they got out of, and charge that politician for the crimes against America through these particular crimes. Okay, human trafficking and life endangerment with COVID infections. Because again, and also any kind of act of violent crime or whatever. Because if any of them have been checked out and they're still sending illegal felons, like the way ICE released them back in April of 2021, 4 of them, 2 out of the 4 were repeated sex offender felons, illegal felons. If Greg Abbott and DeSantis is responsible for transporting those felons, those dangerous to life, those endangerment to life felons, then yeah, put the cuffs on Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis for permitting this to happen. If I was Biden, that's what I would do. I would authorize it. I don't care what kind of declaration. Make one up. That's what these guys are doing. Make one up. Aiding and abetting, dude. Charge them for aiding and abetting to the crimes that have been taking place. Okay. Moving on to the second part, but still in ties with them. Still goes hand in hand. Still germane to this case. The title brought to us by SBG San Antonio staff reports, which I honestly believe they should be shamed for printing this. This article that they put up, it's titled, "Madness Ensues After Parents Rush to Jefferson High School's Lockdown." Once again, madness ensues after parents rushed to Jefferson High School's lockdown. Okay, and here in San Antonio, there was a lockdown at one of our schools off of a gun scare. And the parents who originally started to wait in line in accordance to what the law told them to, because they had the thing covered, they were just looking for a weapon. You know, all the kids were safe and they were just looking for a weapon. The parents cooperated at first, but then there was this one douche, and there usually is one out of every bunch, this one douchebag that tried to break it. He didn't want to wait. He ran to the school with a weapon in his hand, a knife. It would be a long knife. It would be considered a long knife because it reaches about a foot long. It had a rosewood handle. For those of you who don't remember, think of a steak knife with those 2 pegs in the wooden handle. Okay, and it had a dagger-shaped blade, but one side had teeth on it, like for sawing, and the other side was a smooth edge. And it was in a dagger. The entire knife was in the shape of a throwing dagger shape, long knife, because it reached almost a foot. It was just over 11 inches. And he tried using that to bust into a window, to break into a window of a school, of this school, Jefferson High School here in San Antonio, Texas. Jefferson High School, for those of you that are interested in history, Jefferson High School was made sometime after the 1940s, after World War II. It was a place where more or less the well-to-do rich people would send their kids. These days, if you look at the file footage and the pictures of all of the parents, you'll see they're not really rich, and they're still wearing the shorts, the baggy shorts, the overshirt. They're still wearing their bodies in a saggy formation and shaved heads, like the way they did back in the 1990s. These are the parents. They sort of look the same, you know. They sort of look like old gangsta 1990s version, with those shorts that go above the ankles but hang below the knees. Those shorts. Some of them still wear sandals and socks, like the way they're coming out of prison, like the way they did when they were in jail. And some of them, you know, they almost all have shaved heads and goatees. You know, these are the parents from way back in the 1990s. So you know that upper middle class has moved out of the neighborhood. They've been out of the neighborhood for quite some time now. Uh, but yeah, that's what Jefferson High School used to be. That's what it is now. And out of all the people all the parents that were originally cooperating, they all freaked out and went into a panic when one tried to break in with a knife, and the cop tackled him down and arrested him. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to read I'm not going to read the actual article. I am reading the article because the actual article is designed to trigger anger out of you. And why I say that is because of certain key words that I'm going to be bringing back upon the review. So here we go with the report itself, okay? Here we go. SAISD, that's San Antonio Independent School District, SAISD board member Ed Garza confirmed there was an altercation at the high school between some students. At some point, a comment was made about someone having a weapon, and that kick-started the active shooter lockdown. SAISD police immediately began the investigation and kept the kids safe inside their classrooms. During the investigation, school officials learned there was no truth to the weapon allegation. Currently, still no evidence of an active shooter nor a weapon on the campus at all. The police are still adhering to safety protocols and are doing a complete search of the campus. When the parents arrived, they were forced to wait outside. No one could get in or out. They'd passed by the school and saw ambulances and cops on campus. The first thing they popped into their heads was Uvalde. One parent was seen attempting to break a window trying to get in. A cop tackled him down. Soon after that, a brawl breaks out. However, the police say that the man was trying to break in the glass with a knife. Parents who arrived at the school were kept informed of the situation. As soon as the search of the campus was made, parents were able to pick up their kids. The school has been cleared and is deemed safe. That's your article. Back to the review. An altercation between some students. Those are the first key words that it's not a real threat taking place. However, with the comment being made, immediate investigations where the kids were kept safe in the classrooms. That makes sense. Because if there's nobody shooting, then there's no real need to keep them in the classroom, especially if there's no shooters in classrooms. The police did a good job. They did what they were supposed to do. During the investigation, they found out there was no truth to the allegation, no evidence of an active shooter or a weapon on the campus at all. Okay, that's the cops finding the investigation, whether it be San Antonio Independent School District Police or our city police, which both were there. The police are still adhering to the safety protocols and complete search of the campus, which is what the popo should do. Here we go. When the parents arrived, they find they were forced to wait outside. Forced? Not really. Procedurally instructed? Yes. And the proof is that they were kept informed, as opposed to over Uvalde. The first thing that popped in their heads was Uvalde. Okay, that's an assumption on their part. Uvalde did not keep the parents enforced. They just kept them out. Okay? Jefferson High School, the SAISD PD kept them informed while keeping them out, but nevertheless kept the parents informed. That's what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to keep the parents, in the shadows, lost, leaving them uncleared. leaving them so unclear that a parent might actually feel the need to actually sneak in and get their kids out. But sneak the kids in and get out. Okay. The man had a knife. And the video that's broadcasted on this news track literally shows the man gripping his hand because he accidentally cut himself with his own knife before getting just before the cop finally grabbed him and tackled him down. There was a struggle. The cop and the man got up. He was grabbing his arm. The cop saw the opportunity, grabbed him, threw him down to the ground, and started arresting him. The cop tackled him down. Soon after that, a brawl breaks out. Okay, first, a brawl means that cops and citizens were both thrown down, and that wasn't the case. The parents that saw this incident panicked, ran up to the cop and said, "What are you doing? He's just trying to get his kid out." And they came up and they started creeping up on the cop, who then had to pull out his baton and told them, "Get back." Soon after that, a couple of other cops surrounded him, allowing him to arrest that guy with the knife in his hand that stabbed his own damn arm. The cops surrounded and pulled out their batons and told them repeatedly, "Get back, get back. We've got this. Get back." And everybody was trying to panic, trying to pull out their phones and trying to make it seem like the cops are doing some kind of assault. You know, if my kid was in that high school and the cops tried to stop a man with a knife from breaking in, whether that was a parent or not, I'd still want that cop to tackle that mother lover down and arrest him. Because if I'm being told everything's being secured, we're just searching for the weapon, that's all I need to hear. There's no need to go in and try to bust a window, school property, trying to damage school property with a knife, with a long knife. A long knife that had a saw on one end, a thin razor edge on the other, with a thick wooden handle, rosewood styled. No, hell no. Hell no. I'd stop the man myself if the cop didn't notice him. And I'd be jumping in between the cop and the people that tried stopping the cop. I'd be chanting, "Arrest that man! Arrest that man!" You know? I'd be chanting that. And if everybody said, "What the hell are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I saw the doofus with a knife. He tried busting in. Fuck him. Forget him. Arrest that man." No, you don't do that kind of crap. If you're being told that the kids are being kept safe and all that's left is just looking for the weapon, that's what's happening, hell yes, take advantage of that. Don't start causing any more trouble. The parents had arrived at the school, were kept informed of the situation. As soon as the search of the campus was made, parents were able to pick up their kids. That, and only that, was supposed to happen. Not this panicking horse crap or trying to demonize the cop for arresting this douchebag with a knife in his hand, saying, "Hey, the guy just wants his kid. He's busting in through a window." You know, what if a kid inside panics and the guy stabs him? What if a kid, a boy or a girl, panics, tries throwing his or her book bag at him, thinking that he is a threat, and that very same man that's trying to get his kid stabs that boy or girl? No, arresting that guy was the right thing for the cops to do. Especially if all he was just this douchebag that cut his own damn hand. Dumbass. Shame on SBG San Antonio staffing reports, because those key words that I mentioned is what's driving this entire article. Okay? Shame on those people for writing this god-awful report and trying to insinuate that the cops are getting out of line, especially with the footage that clearly showed they weren't. The first thing that popped in the heads of the people was Uvalde. Okay, let's talk about that right there. Okay, Uvalde police outside of Robb Elementary School. Okay, the police at in Uvalde did not keep the parents informed. They just plain pushed them out. Okay, the cops in Uvalde had the kids in their classrooms, but it was completely irrelevant and more life endangering because the gunman was in was in a classroom who could have tried moving from one classroom to the next. Here in San Antonio at Jefferson High School, there was no gunman around. So the proper thing to do was to keep them in their classrooms instead of complicating the search for a gunman anywhere and or the weapon. A gun being particularly the thing that they need to find. Huge difference between San Antonio's Jefferson High School and Uvalde. Huge difference between the two. And again, there was no sign of a gunman. All they wanted to do was just do a search of the campus to look for a weapon if there was one at all. In this case, the cops are in the right. The parents are the ones that did wrong. The cops, in this case, followed proper procedures. The parents did not. The parents were supporting someone that tried to break in with a knife. Now, in this case, the police did what they were supposed to do. The parents goofed it up. The parents effed it up. But in that is a form of very excellent and well done acts of the police in securing a school campus, protecting the kids, looking for a gunman or a gun or any kind of weapon, while keeping the parents informed and doing a full campus search. Despite the fact that if that guy had not tried to break in through the window, this report probably wouldn't have been done. If that brawl took place where the cop tackled down the B&E suspect, this would have just been neglected. It might have had a mention. A lockdown took place. It turned out to be a false alarm. And they would have moved on to the next scandal. You know, so-and-so slept with such and such actor. You know, what they deem is in actual importance. But instead of showing how well SAISD PD and San Antonio PD did, instead, this damn report made it seem like it was just nothing but a chaotic mess. And it did nothing but, it literally did nothing but fuel my anger when I read it. The original form, not this version that I'm reading to you. This version that I'm reading to you has to be pointing out the key words that I saw that did nothing but upset me. And more than likely did nothing but upset all of you who did read the actual article. Again, SBG San Antonio staff reports. Shame on them. Shame on them for writing such a horrible, bull crap article where it looks like chaos is the star of the show, as opposed to how well law enforcement acted in securing everything, in spite of the fact that it was a false alarm. That's irrelevant. Here, the police did what they had to do. And get this, it's here in San Antonio, going back to Sheriff Salazar, law enforcement here in San Antonio, in this part of Texas, versus law enforcement that's being done under Greg Abbott and now currently Ron DeSantis. And for those out there who are thinking, well, this is Greg Abbott's work, I say no, that's wrong. Greg Abbott is not responsible for what San Antonio ISD police did. Greg Abbott is not responsible for what San Antonio police did. Greg Abbott is responsible for telling Texas Department of Safety, DPS, as well as Texas State Troopers to go out and make Americans into criminals. As I've stated in previous posts. Not just aiding and abetting, but previous posts concerning the bus schemes and the border crisis BS. Operation Lone Star. You go to those posts, I give you full detail how Greg Abbott is making criminals out of American citizens and charging them as illegal felons. That's what Greg Abbott does. He has no hold here in San Antonio any more than he does in El Paso, where Beto O'Rourke runs the show. 29 migrant children recovered, rescued, and rehabilitated, even through witness protection. Actually, no, not 29 children, 70 children rescued. 70 trafficked and kidnapped children over there in El Paso, Meanwhile, here in San Antonio, we're catching human traffickers that are murdering 53 people, cooking them in one of his trailers. Everybody's saying, oh no, San Antonio can't maintain anything. Look at the 53 that were dead in the trailer. First off, nobody knew what he was doing until the 53 cooked people were found, and the trafficker tried to pose himself as one of the victims. And then when the investigation showed up, it turns out, he passed through border security at the border, where DPS and Texas State Troopers, who are under the commands of Greg Abbott, and that involves the truck stop scandal, where he has DPS and state troopers checking tires and making sure that the trucks have their fluids. Surveillance footage showed the guy smiling away and trading laughs with law enforcement, because law enforcement was checking the trucks, but not the cargo that had the 53 migrants in it. So right there with DeSantis and all the other people on his side, you could stop that BS right there. It was Governor Greg Abbott and law enforcement assigned by him that permitted those 53 people to be trafficked in by that truck driver who cooked them. If they had actually, if they were actually under any kind of surveillance, or if law enforcement here was to know what took place at the border, we would have actually apprehended. San Antonio would have actually apprehended him, no differently than back in 2020 or 2021. I can't remember which one yet, where 20 was had leaped out of the back of the trailer of a truck that was pulled over in San Antonio. It was over there on IH-10, on the east side of IH-10, the same highway that goes from San Antonio to Houston. A truck was pulled over, under suspicion of migrants being in the truck. And I'm thinking the reason why they weren't cooked was because it was in the wintertime. I think it was March. The truck door was opened, and out came running 20 migrants. They jumped out and they just booked it. They didn't get far, because on one side of the highway is fenced off industrial warehouses, and the other side of the highway is the Texas National Guard. Yeah, they didn't get far, and neither did their trafficker. Okay. Outside of San Antonio, where that 53 was cooked this year, to the southeast side, the south side. I'm sorry. Those guys, those guys, were cooked because they didn't make it into San Antonio, where they would have. It would have been obvious to SAPD. It would have been obvious all the way up to Sheriff Salazar, who he himself, has a couple of cases himself concerning these migrants, arresting traffickers and rescuing migrants. So yeah, the everybody that's a critic is nobody to talk. They got no solid leg to stand on as far as handling migrants, as far as stopping law enforcement, from Salazar all the way up to the government, into handling these cases. Okay? In this case, with Jefferson High School, law enforcement did its job, which was completely different from Uvalde, who's under assignment of Greg Abbott, and is responsible for the children and the teachers being killed. Okay, the 21 people. Here in San Antonio, the exact opposite was done, and an entire high school is safe. It's been deemed cleared and deemed safe. Huge difference between the two. From kids, American kids, all the way to the immigrants that come here. There's a huge difference in the handlings between the two. In this case, in Salazar, the law is right. Every person that is a critic of it is wrong. In this case, concerning SAISD PD and their handlings at Jefferson High School, every law enforcement was in the right and every parent was in the wrong. They flipped out, they freaked out when they shouldn't have, when there was no need to have. And that's the case that's going on concerning it. I say more power to it. I say Biden should allow every single government investigation permitted, in league with state investigators and even local investigators, Bexar County investigators like Sheriff Salazar, to do their job, to be permitted to do their jobs and investigate all of these crimes that are being committed by our governors, okay, by Governor Santos and by my Lone Star State Governor Greg Abbott. If it turns out he took part in the shipping or the airbusing those migrants, he should be charged also, aiding and abetting. If it turns out that he sent COVID-infected migrants to those sanctuary cities, yeah, he should be charged also. He should have the cuffs put on him also. Aiding and abetting for endangering acts. For acts of endangerment, excuse me. If it turns out Abbott, who bust, and DeSantis, who airbust, any one of those migrants that were felons, like the kind that ICE released back in April of last year, especially repeated sex offender immigrant felons. If it turns out DeSantis and Abbott are responsible for sending and busing and airbusing those migrants to the sanctuary cities, then yeah, Governor Greg Abbott, Governor Ron DeSantis, they should be arrested. Law enforcement should be permitted to arrest them. Even if they get bailed out the next day, it doesn't matter, because they've got the money and the power and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. They need to be arrested for what they did. Plain and simple. And they need to be, the law enforcement needs to be permitted to do so, because the law enforcement would be correct in doing so. Just like the way they did in securing safety of this high school kids here in San Antonio at Jefferson High School. Just the way they did when they secured the safety of those children, when they tackled down that one douchebag who claimed to be a parent, tried to break in a window with a knife. The same way law enforcement was in the right in making sure, in controlling the crowd that freaked out and thought that it was okay to bust in and disobey the cops, confront the cops, and then finally back off once the batons and the threat of arrests take place. Law enforcement did the right thing. Law enforcement, from a group of school PD, school district PD, and city PD, all the way up to the sheriff of Bexar County PD, who's opening an investigation for human trafficking, acts of human trafficking. You know, he's in the right. He's in the right for doing so. The people that say, oh, he's got no jurisdiction and this is a political they're in the wrong. They're all in the wrong for saying that. And again, if Biden could just authorize any and every governmental department, agency to launch a full investigation on these acts, you know, you'd be looking at a happy rideshare driver who actually would feel a little bit more safer and a little bit more proud, you know, a little bit more proud and slightly entertained to think a crime busters story taking place while I was Uber driving, you know, being one of those guys opening up the paper, well, on the phone, looking at the news on the phone, and, you know, watching DeSantis in handcuffs. I was afraid, you know, some kind of crap like that. And you know, Governor Abbott being wheeled off onto into a jail cell. Oh man, that would be kick-ass. That would be kick-ass. Same thing with that douchebag over in Arizona. I still can't remember his name. I'm going to look it up right now. Same thing with him. If he honestly did the same type of human trafficking standards that Ron DeSantis did out in the open, you know, with everyone to see, you know, how he did it, and it mirrors the same thing of what actual human traffickers are doing. Doug Ducey, you know, he's busted a couple of migrants also. It's only right that an investigation be done as to whether or not he did it by way of human trafficking. It's only right. In this case, the law is right. And the people, all the way to those parents, are wrong. They're in the wrong. They did wrong. And, you know, they should be shamed for it. As well as the media that's doing nothing. This SBG and any other report, news report, that does nothing but feed into fueling the anger of the readers. Okay, they're in the wrong. Charges should be pressed on them for aiding and abetting to the crime also. To disorderly conduct. How about that? By way of abuse of the press. They should be shut down, or at least the writers that did this should be arrested also. Again, even if they get bailed out the next day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Justice would be that they get arrested for the criminal acts that they did. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. All right. That's all I had to say about this. I had to let that out. I hope everybody out there is doing good and taking care of each other. We'll see you next time. Good luck and y'all take care. This is Chris with Chris's Comments, signing out.